Hi everybody. Thank you for signing up for an online class with the Potter Studio in Berkeley. I'm here to just talk with you a little bit about setting up a home studio space, the things that you'll need, and some tips and ideas for how to manage your space at home when you're working at home. So the primary concern is when working with clay at home are that you're minimizing your inhalation of clay dust. So you're keeping the clay that you're working with and the dust that's being created to a minimum as possible. And then also keeping the clay out of your sinks and drains. You don't want to be putting any clay materials into your regular sinks and drains. You want to start by having a space pretty much like at least 3 feet wide so that you have room to put out all your tools and supplies. And you're going to start by putting plastic down on the floor underneath your workspace, because inevitably things will fall on the floor. And then also cover your surface. If it's not a dedicated clay surface, like if you're working on a kitchen table or a dining room table, then definitely cover that with plastic as well. And then the next thing you want to do is grab yourself some sort of wear board that you can work on. So a wear board is basically something that you're just going to be working on with the clay. I went to the store and got myself some masonite bats cut from a hardware store, but you could also just use a piece of cardboard, just something that you can pick up and move your piece around without having to touch it. Once you've created your piece. Try to set up your work area away from your primary living space if you can. If you have a porch or a covered patio or in the garage, that would be ideal. Clean up your work area as often as possible. So if you're working in home, you're going to have to clear it up anyway. But even if you're working outside in the garage, it's really good studio practice to wipe everything down with a damp sponge and put all of your clay scraps away at the end of your work session. So there's a couple of things that you can use for that. You can either use one of these buckets, that are easy to get from any dollar store, or if you can find any recycled lidded container, you can put your clay inside these, the end of your session, lid on it, and that will keep it wet so that the next time you come to work you can just pull it out and work on it again. And then another idea is if you have a bigger container, you can put clay inside here with a damp rag and just cover the clay with a damp rag, and then when you come back to work again you just pull it out. So you're keeping the clay wet to avoid the dust, and then you're ready to go the next time you come out to work. I have a couple of different sponges, but yeah, if you can get a really big sponge like this is ideal for wiping everything down. I guess what we want to talk about a little bit now is all the different tools and supplies that you're going to need. When you sign up for a class, that will include a 25-pound bag of clay that you can pick up from the studio. It's cone 10 clay. That means it's high fire clay. If you're doing any kind of classes that need to have lower temperature clays, then you can purchase that from the studio as well. You will also be able to purchase a toolkit. Now, the toolkits that you can buy from the studio look something like this. So you'll get a loop tool, a wooden sort of knife tool, two different types of rib tools, and then you'll also get this little guy which is called a pin tool. A wire tool, this is really useful. When you open up your bag of clay, you are going to need to cut it with a wire tool. The other thing that comes in a toolkit is a sponge. So with this basic toolkit, you should be able to do pretty much everything that you need to do for all of the classes that you're taking online. If you want to improvise or you want to get more tools, I put out a couple of different varieties of things that you can have here. So a spray bottle is a really handy thing just for kind of keeping the area damp. If you don't have time to wipe it all down, you can spray it down, and spraying your work as well. Like, it's good to keep your work sprayed. spoons. These are really, I mean, everybody has these in their kitchen, so these are really great for smoothing the surface, and then also for paddling things. If you're taking a hand building class, like paddling tools are really great for kind of keeping the structure and the form of your pieces as you're working. So spoons are a great thing to have. A rolling pin, like a wooden rolling pin. So this is actually a dowel that I got from a hardware store that I just cut into a small piece. But other options for a rolling pin are a piece of plastic piping from a hardware store, or a wine bottle is also really great. Basically, things that you would use as if you were cooking in a kitchen are very similar. There's a lot of crossover with ceramics for tools that you use in a kitchen. So let's see. I have some other sponges. Again, another like kitchen sponge would be fine. This edge is even useful in some scenarios where you're hand building. And then this is a makeup sponge that I got from a dollar store. So this is really great for doing fine detail work if you want to use a makeup sponge. Again, more kitchen supplies. Another paddling device is this great spatula, and then these are some other types of things that you could use. If you don't have a rib tool, you can use these metal hardware tools. These are really great for scraping clay also from the surface. So if you're working on something, you make a mess and it gets really sticky, you can use this to scrape the surface and pick up the extra clay rather than scraping it with your nails across the you'll find this much more effective. So some other little extra tools. If you're working with slabs in a hand building class, you want to be able to roll out your slabs pretty evenly. So having these two rulers, two just simple wooden rulers, you can lay those down and then you can roll your clay evenly across the surface of your wear board. So those are helpful things to have as well. So I'll talk a little bit about kind of you've come to the end of your clay session and you're going to be cleaning up. So a bucket of water, a nice big sponge, you're going to pick up all of your clay scraps, put them into your container that's lidded, or into your Ziploc bag, or into your other lidded vessel with a wet towel to keep all of that stuff workable. And then you're going to scrape up your work area, sponge everything down with the wet sponge, and then clean your tools as well. It's really important. People forget this, that it's really important to clean your tools as well as your work area, because they will be covered in clay as well. So again, as a way of keeping down that clay dust, clean all of your tools, wipe down your work area, pick up your plastic carefully, like don't pick it up and waft it around like this, because that's all clay dust going into the air. So you want to pick up the area that your plastic sheeting that you've got, fold it in half and fold it up each end, and then you can just kind of pour out the crumbs that will come out of that into a bucket of water or your lid container with your other clay. So I think I've kind of covered everything there that you will need, and I hope you enjoy your class, and I look forward to seeing you online.